and the last job that I had in politics, a big congressional or actually a presidential campaign, was Senator Bernie Sanders for president here in California. One of the things why I was invited here was field. So that's actually my expertise here. I've luckily been able to train many field operatives here in Orange County. My former regional director, PDI here. We have a system called PDI, which is similar to van or minivan in other states. California uses specifically PDI, which stands for Political Data Inc. Pardon me. And here in California, it is imperative for folks or anybody, right, anywhere, to have field. You know, it's very important to have field. And one of the most the best thing to have when you have field, obviously, you know, you cannot move any campaign without people power. You know, not every campaign has that luxury of spending tens of thousands of dollars for mailers. And one of the things here, if you have the ground game and field, one of the things that I tell folks is, like, you know, if your campaign is set, if it's not in the primary and your election is up in November, field takes at least a bare minimum of 3 months. Please remember that. That is very imperative in this conversation, is 3 months to set up. I would highly recommend, if you all have your field operatives or your field directors, to already lay out your game plan. It takes at least 3 months to develop one, because you're going to have to, you know, do if you're going to be doing persuasion or deep canvassing, if you're going to be doing traditional canvassing. Is anybody familiar what deep canvassing is and what canvassing is? There's two differences in that. Go ahead.
Victor, I think that in your presentation, it would be good to just assume that people know nothing.
Okay.
And those that do will take what they can from it, and those that don't will gain a lot.
All righty. So deep canvassing is a model of where it's a two-way line of communication with the voter, where you are spending quality time and making those connections. Because most campaigns just come in the last 3 months and always say, here's why you should vote for this candidate, XYZ, right? We're just telling them what to do. Oh, are you going to be voting on the general election? Wonderful, right? You'll get responses, and then your field director will pull all that information to follow up with those individuals. But if people don't even know that there's a general or there's a primary, most likely they're not going to be voting, especially our base, our Democratic base. Sadly, historically, midterm elections, we do not do well at all. We may have a 2% or 2-point majority, right, in a district against a Republican. Never be content that, hey, well, it's majority blue, we're going to turn out. Sadly, that doesn't happen all the time. So deep canvassing is a two-way conversation, which is similar to persuasion, but you have dialogue and you connect with those individuals on issues that you are very familiar yourself, right? If you're running for school board, you know why you're running, right? You want the people to know why you're out there and why you're so passionate, right, that you took the leap and want to run, right? When you start doing deep conversations, you start building that relationship. You start having those one-on-ones outside of, like, okay, well, here's why you should be running for Jane Doe. Jane Doe will do this. Jane Doe will do that. People are sick and tired of that. People want to know what these candidates are at, and just, you know, hearing and getting feedback, a two-way line of communication. And you're not really measuring based on quantity of doors knocked per hour. You're measuring your work based on the quality of conversations that you're having. Why? Once you have those quality of conversations with individuals, yes, you may not be knocking 100 doors per shift. You may be knocking 20 doors per shift. And your shift depends on your field director and what strategy they're going to be out there doing with community, right? Because out of those 20 conversations that you're having per shift, you may land 2 super volunteers later on down the road when you start switching from deep conversations and changing their narratives as well. If you're going to be identifying people, why they support you or why they don't support you or why they're hesitant to support you, your canvassers are going to be going back out there to change that narrative, right? Well, I don't want my taxpayers XYZ, right? Like, this is why you educate them. You have deep, thorough trainings with your canvassers to explain to to explain why they should be, understanding your point of view, why they're supporting your candidate, Jane Doe, for school board, right? So once we get that information, it's very important for your field director to make sure that they're making it as a comprehensive and robust survey on PDI, because anything that comes out, they're recording that on their PDI Mobile Connect. In other states, it would be called minivan. Hope y'all are familiar with minivan. And it's very important to get all of that data. So here in California, we call them flags. In other states, they're most likely called activist codes, but they're just flags in general. It's just different language, but it's the same thing. And it's very important, right? So we can persuade people to know where they're at, right? One of the things right here for this upcoming primary elections, it's very common standard practice in almost all campaigns where people say, did you know that there's a primary in June 7th? Right? Psychologically, that's one of my questions that I always ask people is I go thorough, I go more deeper, right? Before I ask that last question in that survey, I start off with obviously introductions, but simple question. Did you know that there's an election on June 7th? Well, whatever their answer is, okay, cool, we'll continue, right? So I already asked that question. I already got a response. It's either a yes or a no, never a maybe. You just ask a simple, plain question, which is, do you know that there's an election June 7th? Yes or no? At the end, my pitch is that simple standard question that everybody asks. Will you be voting on June 7th? Right? Why is that? Why do I ask that question? Because the last question is, can I count on you to vote June 7th? Right? They're going to say, most of the time, because people just want to please the person that's asking that question, they're just going to say what? Yes. Right? They're just going to say yes. But you already know before you started that survey if they already knew if there was an election. If they said no, that they don't know that there was an election, that they're Democrats, and then you end that question or that survey with this question, ask them, can I count on you to vote? And they'll say yes. Most likely, guess what they're going to be doing? They're not going to be voting because they're going to forget. They didn't even know. So it's up to the campaign to grab that information and you go above and beyond further, right? Go deeper into having those conversations with those individuals. When we find out or identify individuals that don't know that there's elections, don't know their races, whether it be water board, school board, board of supervisors, etc. It's important to go follow up with those individuals. And traditional canvassing is obviously those talking points, right? We're not there for pivoting from your deep persuasion to your traditional canvassing. Then you just start gathering one-way data. One-way data is basically, do you know who John Doe is running for, Congress? They may say no, they may say yes. So, you're just gathering as much data as possible, right? Because we want to know people that are politically engaged or not. And here in California, we have a system called a PDI. It's a VTS, a voter tally score. A voter tally score is basically what the software is categorizing or ranking our voters, if they are high propensity voters or low propensity or no vote history at all, right? So it's VTS scores are in California. I don't know what they call them in other states. So we want to make sure that when we go out canvassing, we identify and ask those questions if they're going to be on your survey. Have you heard of, or it just depends on how you frame your question, right? And I don't believe in the one size fits all, because California is one thing, the Inland Empire, other states have different needs and necessities. So please, let's just take what I'm my personal experience and what I'm doing and apply it, and how it may or may not work right in other states. But one thing I would highly advise for folks, if they are doing field, just try and grab as much as information and data and ask those questions as possible. So that's the difference between deep canvassing is having a two-way line of communication, empathizing, hearing out the folks. And when you deep canvas, if you're going to be canvassing the month of April, your script is going to continuously change. It's not going to be one set script for that whole month, because as you go, as the week progresses in April, you may start pivoting from what you assume as a candidate are the important issues for that respective seat that you're running. It's going to be shifting because you're going to be hearing feedback from individuals. So it's a great way for your campaign to be connecting right with folks and understanding the needs. Because in certain areas or districts, you may have obviously like the POC apartment renters. You may have on the other side could be affluent, upper middle class, educated. All the dynamics, all the criterias differ from neighborhood to neighborhood. So just please make sure to just send messaging that fits that community that you are targeting. If you are running for city council, running for Congress, or running for state senate or anything like that, those features are very important, and they're all in there. And you on PDI and minivan, you could target renters. You're gonna have one specific message for renters in the high cost of living or rents here, right? I'm talking specifically about California. How we're sending messages to renters. We're sending messages to single family homeowners. Taxes are important to them. So we're gonna be framing and changing the message to every single individual, and it's super easy to do on PDI if you're familiar with it. I haven't worked too much with Van, but if you all have somebody in your local central committees or Democratic clubs that they're hard to find, right? Because they may not align with our views and progressive values. So please, like, make sure to know that one size fits all obviously doesn't work with everybody. And if you are going to be getting endorsements, I highly recommend you to all go to your county registrars. That's very important. If you're going to be getting endorsements, go to your county registrars, get that information on how that representative or that elected official did in that respective area and how it overlaps in your district, and send out, there is software out there where you can send out massive text blasts at a very cheap rate, folks, like very cheap. I don't know the rates, at least here in California, they're affordable. For progressive candidates, they are affordable, and they can work with you as people that are consultants with messaging, and with just a little bit of background, right, in all of these candidates or endorsements that you're receiving. It's targeting. Targeting is super duper important. Again, just a quick little timeline about field. Most campaigns, presidential campaigns, high-powered campaigns, obviously, that have the money to waste, 3 months, right? Even after 3 months, you're just not fully there. You're barely all synced up. I would highly recommend you all, if your elections in November, y'all should, in my opinion, this is how I work. I like working backwards. I'm gonna already have all my candidates that I'm working with in July, locking all my dates. And what I mean by that, it's like we already know that there are big holidays. If you're running for school board, look up, do a little bit of research, right, and seeing what historical events there are from July until the election on November 7th, if I recall correctly, right? I think I'm right? No? Yes. So please, if you are going to be counting a lot on your ground game and going up against, high-powered campaigns, what they don't have is people. mobilize, getting out the message out there, right? From July to November. Okay, cool. This day, just blocking your dates, right? Like, okay, you could have canvas launches, um, weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, during the week. If there are super volunteers, if you've ID'd super volunteers, there are programs on PDI where you can just, assign them precincts. For the record, this past week, there was just a recent update on PDI. If you live in California, that's definitely going to be affecting your campaign. If you are targeting by precincts or assigning by precincts, it's totally different. And 5% of the county has seen a change in their precinct. So please check in with your local registrars and see if you are running the campaign and heavily relying on precincts. Look at them because they might have changed compared to the precinct list that you had before. And the precincts changed simply because of the redistricting, the census, the redistricting at the local and federal level. And this month, the final step of the redistricting process happened, and that was the local county precincts here in California. And does anybody have any questions for now?
One thing I would like to say, Victor, is, all right, so a big challenge, and you're very good at this. Victor was one of the co-founders of Unidad, which is a grassroots community organization in is it not the largest Latinx community in Huntington Beach, Victor?
Yes, it is the largest in Huntington Beach, yes.
So you were one of first of all, you organized the community that you live in to be part of Unidad, and you brought a lawsuit against the waste management company here, and it was David and Goliath, and you won. I'm bringing this up for several reasons. One, I think that people really are challenged when it comes to how do I start organizing a grassroots effort for my field program. Do I bring a clipboard for people to sign up at every event I go to? I mean, tell people how it is you've been able to accomplish organizing massive groups of people to then energize them to go and vote.
That is correct.
What you're good at. And this is a major challenge for especially local races. If you're the first time candidate, what do you do? Or even if you're the first time candidate, like Brenda Short ran for the city council, but now she's running for mayor in a major metropolitan area, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Go for it, Victor.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Karen. This system was not created for people of us and progressives to be running. I've had my fair share of run-ins with the party. And it has, some, they tried to pigeonhole me to be conforming me to be their way. Like, yeah, when I first said the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, like, whoa, what? This guy? That was a red flag, right? I did not know. I was a novice. I was just hired out. Like I said, I was a canvasser, and I got that opportunity to flip. And I had a personal beef with a representative. His name was Dana Rohrabacher, infamous Dana Rohrabacher. If y'all look at him, like, he started a lot of the anti-immigrant movement here in the 90s. He's been a representative since 89 until 2008, till I kicked him out of office because we won by 125 votes. And those votes came from my community, y'all. That's how I got to the position that I'm at. I started off as a grassroots activist, working class job, being a pizza guy, etc., to now being, a field director and owning my own company, right? But like I said, going back, this system was created to have so many layers upon layers upon layers, to make it so complicated for first-time runners and people that have their heart in the right place to make systemic change, right? My best advice for folks would be, you know what? There are groups and pockets of us, of progressives out there, I would highly recommend to at least, yes, if you're still detached and you know that the parties usually have people that are they already have lined up to fill in that seat that's vacant or running against Republicans, or they're probably not going to be putting up other Democrats against other Democrats unless they did something really bad, right? But what I've learned in the time since I've been involved in the Democratic Party politics is go where everybody meets, right? You'll start seeing, I always tell this to people, even if they don't say anything, just connecting the dots. That's what we all got to do, is connecting the dots, right? And start seeing if there's establishment individuals, establishment individuals, or just people that are just coming to these Central Committee meetings. Have any of you been to Central Committee meetings? Or do you all know what Central Committee meetings are? I'm gonna pretend nobody knows what Central Committee meetings are, right? So here we run on values of what we consider progressives or liberal. I don't know what words to use out there, but if we believe in a living wage, which was radical several years ago, right? Prior to Bernie Sanders was radical, right? Where we should be, taxing the 1%. Please. In any what the establishment would consider radical ideas, right? There are pockets of us here and there. It does take time, and I hope that we all have individuals that we could trust and align, and they could guide us in the right direction, right? And always expand and get your. It's hard to trust folks in Democratic Party politics. It's very hard, but the base that you do have, and that's how I believe I came to be where I'm at right now, is because I did have my road dog, my homie, my ride and die individual, right? His name is Oscar Rodriguez, which we're co-founders of our grassroots community organization. Making those connections and seeing where the power structures lie, right? When I mean power structures, that's people in positions that are influential in those endorsements that you want to go get, right? Yeah, I think that my best advice would be just to, having community, and having a perfect, not perfect, but just visual out there, making yourself notice. We don't want to also be like, oh, look what I'm doing, look at this, look at that. But guess what? Sadly, that's in today's day and age with social media and everything, we have to be proud of what we do. This is, my point of view on how I think now, because before the things that I did, nobody knew. I'm not posting every single thing that I do, right? But it's okay once in a while for your campaign folks to know and acknowledge the hard work that you do, right? Because that's one of the reasons why you all are doing, because y'all do great things in your community. They go unnoticed, they empower you, you do amazing things. Why not have, maybe your colleague, because my buddy would do that and I would do that for him, right? Post that, or make a post that connects to your work that you do, right? Because we're here for a reason, because we believe that we can and we will make systemic change. But how do we get there? That's the hard challenge, right? That's the hard challenge. Well, I want to raise money. That's one of the most difficult things, and that's what the party most of the time, if not all the time, judges folks in their campaign is based on how much money they could raise, right? Yes, I'm not going to say it's not important, because it is, but it's not the sole contributing factor on why you should be a viable candidate or not. If you don't have that much money, but you have the sweat capacity, or the sweat equity, which I call, which is the people power, that speaks a lot in itself. And even if you have that, you have to have a great strategy on how you're going to reach your ultimate objective, which is cross the finish line, right? And having those locked calendar dates are amazing. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper. If you're running for higher office, you don't have the money, but we have the street smarts. Most campaigns, high power campaigns, they will hire what they call trackers. Do people know what trackers are? I just hope that y'all are with me and I'm not like speaking so fast that you're not understanding.
Yeah, it's great information. I don't know what trackers are.
Okay, perfect. So trackers, if you don't have the money to hire a tracker. A professional tracker are people that do a little bit of, how do I say this, operative work, and do a little research on your candidate. Start following their Twitter, all their social medias, register for their email list and all that. Oh my God, why would I want to sign up to a Republican email list? You're an operative. That's how you train your operatives. That's a big component of field. It just depends on what type of race that you want to do, right? You sign up to everything, you go to events, but you have to train them. You have to train individuals and trackers and asking them those questions that they refuse to answer, right? If they're running for Congress, or if they're running for school board, if they're running for city council, will you raise I don't know what question. I'm just thinking of the top of my head, right? Why did you do this? Well, things that make them uncomfortable. But I do have some, some stuff that the DCCC trained us to do as far as tracker, because I was a tracker as well, and ask those questions, right? And get them on film, or just even sitting back at a big town hall. If they're very comfortable with their surroundings and the crowd they're in, sometimes you may catch a gaffe. A gaffe is like, an off, topic joke or anything, Biden's very familiar with those things, right? Like people catch them on doing, saying dumb things sometimes, right? But you want at a local level, those gaffes, those, sometimes, people make racist comments that, they think they just get away with it. But if you have somebody that's willing to, go to these events, and they love going to ribbon cutting events. They love going to ribbon cutting. So please, like, take that into consideration. If there are events locally that are happening, you would want to obviously, like, I don't want to go too much in depth on what a tracker does, but basically in simple terms, it's a person that studies the opposition and tries to catch them slipping, basically.
So yeah, okay, I didn't know what they're called. Yeah, I know quite a few people that are like.
Yeah, and in high-powered presidential or assembly, Senate, or Congress campaigns, they'll be blatantly open. They already know them. People already identify them. They get paid pretty decent money here in California. They get paid decent money. And all their job is just to stand there with the camera and record. People already know them. So that's a tracker. So if you're running for, city council, and they're controversial city council candidates, I would recommend, if you don't have the money, but no, you have the people power, if you catch them, you could agitate. That's another expert thing to do, which I'm great at. I almost got knocked out by the MMA legend Tito Ortiz from the MMA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he almost knocked me out. But those are agitation tactics, right?
But he left, so it's good.
Yeah, well, we got him out of here in Huntington Beach. Are you familiar with him?
I'm in La Habra, so yeah, we know.
Yeah, luckily we got him out of
Victor
office.
is the king of live Facebook Live, not the print.
I don't do that anymore, Karen. That's just so much capacity.
So Victor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Tell us what you did. How did you organize your community? Did you go door to door? Did you go to events? How did you engage your community to go and vote for Harley Ruda in a highly contested primary for Congress and have him win by 128 votes, all coming
125.
Oakview?
125. Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. So, we've been organizing here. I come from, a troubled background, being formerly incarcerated, from the streets and so forth. Now I have hair. Awesome. I love my hair now. So people know my family. They know. I hope y'all don't mind this really quick. They also know me because of this beautiful woman here. It's my mother.
Oh,
that's my mother. I had to plug her in.
that's awesome. Good
I had to
job.
plug her in because people know local figures. We know our community. Our people know our families. They know everybody, right? My mom is the first tamalera here in the neighborhood in Oakview, in my city, since 1980, right? So obviously she's seen people. go and come and etc. So I'm like el hijo de la tamalera, the son of the street vendor, right, that sells tamales. So in 2015, to go back and answer Karen's question, how did I mobilize people? You know, we've seen this year, you know, year in, year out, political campaigns come in, reply, and always, you know, scapegoat the POC communities. Oh, we lost because of this. Oh, y'all didn't turn out. Y'all never vote. And it is true, because I was that individual. I didn't vote. If y'all see, you know, my PDA record prior to 2016, I didn't vote. I wasn't engaged. I was that person who just did not want to vote, right? Because nothing changes. Like in my neighborhood, nothing changes. In other POC neighborhoods, nothing changes. But having that presence of, you know, knowing community and knowing that you are, in our, at least here speaking for my community itself, in my personal experience, not for the whole community, but seeing local change and reaching out to people. Like we go to town halls and we always hear the same problems. Our landlords, you know, are raising the rent. They intimidate us. They threaten us if we complain. The outside of the neighborhood is like blighted. There are XYZ problems. They're giving you issues to identify already. What are things that I could do to alleviate or abate those issues? Code enforcement problems, lack of code enforcement, lack of, it's so mind-blowing, right? It's like, oh my God, like I was able to do that without any political experience. But people want to see change, right? You want to make connections with those individuals or plug them in or guide them. You know, there's only so much we could do, right? We're not playing the savior role. I've never played the savior role, but I understand that, you know, with so much community, you know, love and all that, we have to ground ourselves. I've grounded myself millions of times, but empowering community is people trust me. People trust me in the neighborhood. Not everybody, because that would be a BS lie. Nobody trusts everybody in the neighborhood, right? There's always going to be people that are like, los envidiosos, or people that are like, oh, this guy thinks he's all that. I really don't care. I don't let that get to me, right? Because there's always going to be haters, you know. But at the same time, the majority of the community trusts, because we've done the work, we've put in the work, we've stopped deportations. I've literally filmed ICE and got them out of our neighborhood. We've stopped deportations, you know, federal cases actually. We've actually helped people return from a 10-year ban because of their immigration process with the person that we got elected, get them here like 3 years into the 10-year sentence of being, you know, out, you know, kicked out of the United States. We've done renter rights, which, you know, renter rights workshops. If you're running for city council, guess what? Most of these organizations have they're HUD funded. If y'all don't know what HUD is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They're community development block grants that come in to serve, you know, and cater to the minority communities, right, or poor, low-income communities. But those monies usually go to nonprofits that perpetuate the system and don't do anything, right? So what we do is contact the city, code enforcement, contact the Fair Housing Foundation. That's the local organization that's in charge of, you know, the fair housing rights and etc. Have these two entities together because people don't know their rights. Those are so important and why people trust. So people want to see results. People want to know what you are doing, because everybody, just like, you know, most politicians, if not all, but most, make promises. People want to see delivers. So once they start seeing that, they start trusting you. You know, once you start trusting, you get the trust of the community. And it's not all, I'm not going to say all, but enough of folks, you start empowering one voter at a time. That in itself is super duper, you know, powerful, right? Because then you get the moms, and moms tell their students, and their students become part of our campaigns, which last election cycle, out of the campaigns that I was running field for, Oscar Rodriguez, Natalie Mosier, and Dan Kalmick, 2 of them made it to city council, all in the at-large district in Huntington Beach. Predominantly like all just white neighborhood, right? And but Tito Ortiz won. Anyways, how did I empower folks? How did I empower folks? It's just making them believe that, you know what, like, yes, I understand. Just being honest with them, you know, like, I'm not here to, you know, save and change everything, because that's really hard. I always approach the situations in the electoral campaigns as being as real as possible with folks, you know, just being genuine and authentic. as much as we want XYZ things being, fixed overnight, let's be realists. We're not going to be BSing them as much as we want to, right? Like in political terms, make them believe everything that we're saying, even though that is what we're trying to change in the system. But what is more near and dear to your heart? Living conditions here in my neighborhood. Like if I were to pivot into an issue here, it would be something that they could see and feel, which is like, the substandard living conditions, slumlords, right? So that's the trust that was built throughout the years from 2015 when I started this grassroots group with my buddy Oscar. In 2018, I was working, working class jobs. I related. I lived there, right, in the neighborhood. So when I did come around in the primary in 2018, I asked folks, went out, canvassed, and since I was a director, I was able to send individuals and phone bank them and let them know, hey, your ballot drop box is here, or we could actually go pick it up. Here in California, we are allowed to go pick up ballots on behalf of campaigns, as long as there are steps, but we call it ballot collecting, not what the Republicans call ballot harvesting. No, it's ballot collecting. And we got enough folks that he won this precinct. I wish I could take all the credit. It was 95 votes that came out of here, and another precinct where Gina lives, a friend of ours who happens to be a trustee. And I would say the most badass woman in all of Orange County, does not back down on anybody, was the primary reason why we got rid of Tito Ortiz here. She's the president of the Ocean View School District. So we won that precinct and this one. Overall, it was 125 votes that we got our candidate, the DCCC chosen one, over the primary against the California Democratic Party endorsed candidate. So it was a pretty epic battle, because the local state party and below was choosing Hans Kirsten, and the top chose Harley. So they pinned two Democrats against two Democrats, and it was just a nasty fight. But yeah, the 125, and that was more than enough to, word spreads like wildfire in politics on who wins races. Y'all know that.
So I have to say, just to interrupt really quick, sorry. So those of you who don't live around here, Huntington Beach is very, very white. We live here in Orange County. I do not see a minority community whenever we're in Huntington Beach at all. So that's just crazy amazing. It's really awesome to hear that. I had no idea any of that was happening. And my husband and I are constantly in Huntington Beach. It was crazy town through the whole pandemic. I'm sure you guys saw on the news, all the, you go to the pier and it's people from out of town. They don't even live in Huntington Beach, and they've chosen Huntington Beach to be the place where all the white supremacists are. And you can't go down PCH without flags and people jumping in between your cars. It's bad. It's really bad. So that's amazing. I'm so excited, so happy to hear this. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. Yes, and you know what? I will say this about the Republicans. They are excellent organizers.
Yes.
They mobilize in big numbers, and they're excellent also in narrative controls, in using the media. Because you just said this, Michelle, is anything that has to do with COVID-19, white supremacist radical groups, they gather up here in one of the biggest tourist locations in California, which is Surf City, USA.
Yeah, they flooded the whole
downtown area. But that's another thing. I'm glad that you brought that up, is media.
Mm-hmm.
Media. When you are doing events, they know a hotspot, an area that draws attention right away is that area. And why Huntington Beach is very infamous or famous, whichever way you want to see it, is there's a lot of hate groups that originated here in downtown. There's skinheads walking around with swastikas. It was normal. It was in the 90s, and I grew up in these. I saw those, the punk scene, the swastikas, and it was normal. I was like, all right, cool. Like, you're white, cool. I'm Mexican. What's up? So it was normalized for me, like my girlfriend lives in Anaheim, and she it just feels different. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? But yeah, you know, big uh, anti-immigrant movements have started over here. Dana Rohrabacher was the one spearheading Proposition, check this out, 187. Are you all familiar with that penal code? Okay, so penal code 187 is a standard code used by law enforcement to, homicide, murder, the
Mhm.
penal code for that, 187. So they named a anti-immigrant Latino bill over 25 years ago here in Huntington Beach. And even with local legislation here at the state level, SB 54, also known as the California Values Act, that limited the monies and communication between local law enforcement, local monies with immigration or ICE. Y'all remember, if you all in California, the hate circus, or the whole, the extremists going from city to city throughout the state of California? That's them. And it's usually
Yes.
the same group.
So they came down. So just a little bit of background. So you got, that same group came out to La Habra. So Beach Boulevard goes all the way to Huntington Beach and ends in my city of La Habra. So they showed up in off of Imperial and Beach Boulevard because it's Caltrans and because it's state owned, and all of them walked. We are predominantly minority community. It was really bad. A lot of the minorities came out and they were fighting them in the streets because there's these 50 to 100 Trump loving minority hating people, and they started fighting with our local people here, and there was so many people angry, but it was the same Huntington Beach people just hitting the end of Beach Boulevard. It was amazing. It's just amazing. And to me as a commissioner, I'm responsible to try and do something, right? You see something, you do, so I'm calling the police, I'm calling our director, I'm calling our mayor, I'm calling everybody. My husband and I are driving back and forth, making sure nobody's getting hurt. This is just amazing that this is even happening. So I really value your information today. I'm really happy that you're talking. This is just amazing.
Thank you. I'm gonna, Karen, do you mind if I share my screen? When we have those mobile projects, then we already know what we're going to be targeting, right? If it's a local school race, you already have your issues, you already have your script, we already have our community. Now we're going to go out canvassing. So I'm going to show you all. I just looked for one of my presentations that I worked on with the Bernie campaign, which is how do we set our team up, right? Most people have their, it's always good, your clipboard, right? Field. Let me turn my blur off. I'm actually already running a campaign with my 9 to 5. Now,
Victor, Egypt has a question.
yes, go ahead, Egypt.
First, thank you so much, Victor. What you're saying, it's so just helpful. So thank you. So during my time, I've directed canvases and stuff as well. And I always found that as a person of color, canvassing can be extremely dangerous and can be, if not, I guess you can say, if you don't have the proper resources and training, especially if you're going into areas that are predominantly white as a person of color, what are some things and strategies that you've done so that you can protect your canvassers?
Perfect. So one of the things, I do have a do's and don'ts walk list of what to do, especially what we do with this current job that I have. We do deep canvassing, but we specialize on immigration, and we try to persuade no party preference or Republicans that are strong opposed to change them into lean opposed and be a little bit more receptive, right? So we do have these scenario-based trainings that we do go through before giving them the script and be like, all right, just go ask these questions. Like, oh no, we have to give them those scenario-based trainings on, okay, what would you do if this happened? How are you going to be reacting? What are you going to do, right? Like we make sure that we go through that, and do's and don'ts, and houses to avoid. Actually, if you have your list I'm trying to get this blur out. I'm trying to show you all something, but I know you can't see it because it's a blur. All right. Oh, you can still see my campaign stuff. Let me see. Background. I'll be happy to share this with Karen. I don't give this out to many folks, but I do have all of my campaign resources from the Bernie campaign and current ones that we're running as far as do's and don'ts, scenario-based training. If we have PDI Mobile Connect, which is the minivan equivalent in other states to California. I have this mini project here. It's loading. Just bear with me for a second. But I will give you an example, right? Let's say I'm sending you, Egypt, to go canvass a neighborhood. It's a predominantly white, affluent, probably anti-immigrant, right? And we're going to go deep canvassing, and we want to make sure that we want folks to, go out and vote. If you're going to be going there, I always tell folks, look for telltale signs. If you're going to be going up to a household that you already know is hold on, let me see. So here, I don't know if you could see.
Maybe put down the brightness and
Oh.
that'll help.
Oh, that'll help, right?
All right, I can see it. Okay.
So here we have, we know by this letter here, it's a Republican. Y'all see the red, right? If they're heading to that address, if they're heading to that place, we know that this individual is John Aceves, 37-year-old male. VTS score is the number 2. VTS stands for voter tally score here in California. So we already know some things, right? It's a male, 37-year-old. And we're going up there. And I always tell folks, if you start seeing, a Blue Lives Matter flag, don't tread on me flag, you start seeing those signs that say, forget the dog, beware of owner. If you feel uncomfortable, canvassers are my number one safety, right? Skip that house. You may want to put, this position, not home, and skip that. We actually did have this scenario happen on our first week in February, where we have our youth with our organization that I work for. It's a C3 organization. And right before daylight savings time, it got really dark at like 5:30 already, right? Like dark. And we were canvassing in a neighborhood in Costa Mesa called Shalimar. In Shalimar, our canvassers were being, I always told, if you feel uncomfortable, we have a text group. So create that. Please take note. If you are going to be sending out your canvassers, create like a signal, create a big group text message. So stay connected. If folks, feel uncomfortable or they want to communicate with the field director, they have, a direct line of communication with the field director. You don't want your field director to be sending out, 6, 7 folks out there and expect them to, just call you. You have to reach out to them and say, hey, I check in with my canvassers all the time when they're out in the field as paid canvassers. How's everybody doing? If I'm looking at their data and watching their patterns of walking, and say, hey, we could see if they're struggling, if they're slowing down. Is everything okay? I see that you're, slowing down. Are you having trouble? Please be aware of your surroundings. So if you need a restroom break, please go ahead and take a restroom break. Need some waters. Always be within, a half a mile to a mile radius of where they're going to be at, where you cut your turf. So if they're going to be on downtown Huntington, I'm going to be in downtown Huntington myself with a hotspot, with the internet, and never leaving them alone. Because if something happens, you want to make sure that you're there, boom, right there, right away, right? So a scenario that happened early February was males. So all of our canvassers are young youth from Savannah and Savannah High, and they were being followed by some creepy dudes, right? We ended our canvases at 5:30, 6 o'clock. They were already back at the rendezvous point. So the whole point is just want to make sure that to reiterate to your canvassers that if they feel uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever, please, let the campaign know. We usually have to look, legit, because now nobody will just open the door for any random person, right? make sure to have your lanyards, your reflective vest at night. And they're fairly inexpensive. They're very inexpensive. You know, you could go to Amazon or anywhere else, right, to buy them. I would hate to give my money to them, but that's where we got them from. I would highly recommend you all to do that. I could show you all some of the stuff that we do and do's and don'ts and what to do to prepare them, you know, because that's what a field director does, is having that list, that checklist, right? Not just from what we believe is best practices, but from, you know, input from other campaigns and other folks and canvassers themselves. So we do have a list, and I'll be more than happy to share that with y'all. Also, Karen, let me see.
Yes.
I can't share my screen, right?
All right. So hold it 1 second.
Yeah.
Before you share your screen, you should be able to, because I gave you co-host.
Yeah,
But,
I got it.
all right, hold on. So before you do that, important. Earlier, I want to go back to something. Earlier, you talked about renters' rights and immigration rights. And I think it's really important that people here know that what you did to organize in Oakview, you put a table and chairs in your yard, and you put together an event where you brought in speakers from HUD or wherever it was that you said, and had people, you handed stuff out, like people in your community came to your house in your yard and listened to what their rights were as renters. You had big crowds, correct? So maybe you can speak to that, how you organize it. It was like really important. You knew what the issues were, you knew what people were concerned about, and you put events together, meetings together, so that people from the community could come in and listen to so-called experts and get their information.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, it's just identifying community needs. And for the record, even our organization, Oakview Comunidad, the way it's spelled is like all capital unity inside community, right? Clever. We're not a nonprofit, but what we do have is what other organizations don't have, is like people, right? How I organize is going out canvassing, like getting to know your neighborhood. What better way to start getting to know your local community by talking to them, right? And letting them know about the issues that, you know, how we can help them, right? And for instance, I'm going to use this flyer because I just found it right now. We partnered up with the local Boys and Girls Club. You know, they want to start to get that vaccine money, right? As a nonprofit and helping out communities. We partnered up with the Boys and Girls Club in partnership with the local Memorial Care here. They made these flyers for us, right? So that also gives our community group, you know, Valladares, I guess, as an organization, as a well-established organization, even though we don't have a C3 or have any bylaws or have any hierarchy. And that's one of the reasons why we also did not want to incorporate, is because of that. You know, we don't have any strings attached. We don't have anybody. We don't respond to anybody. Like we're still a group of activists, and it's our entity. It's like our political, our C4, I guess you could say, but without any funding, where we could say and do whatever we want. Yeah, I think did that answer your question, Karen? And what did I do to organize my community? Yes, tabling was one of them. You know, canvassing is very important. We're going to be going out canvassing for, you know, on our very first Know Your Rights workshop in a couple of years that we've hosted here. You know, because the city of Huntington Beach and the school district have hosted, and we keep hearing the same issue over and over and over again, right? So yeah, canvassing is super duper important.
Let me know if you can't share your screen.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I'm going to share with you all something that I created. It doesn't come out the same, but this is something that I created for my canvassers. Back with the Bernie campaign. So it doesn't look the same because I try to copy and paste it from my hard drive from Bernie camp and just copy and paste it into my own, it was hard. But it just, that's why you see this coding, it just doesn't pop up because it's not the original one. But because I created it when I was working with the campaign, so it's technically theirs, but I created it, so I try to copy it to take it with me, right? And it's been modified since. But I have a lot of stuff. Let me see. Present. Oh, I guess I can't. Oh. It's view only. I forgot which account it's under. But y'all can see it from here, right? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So with PDA Mobile Connect, if you're in California, you're gonna have to download this application at the Google Store, App Store. Let me see. I think this was. Sorry, hold on one second. This is. I'm gonna go to my work one. Sorry, Carrie, could you take it over for a second? I'm gonna look for it really quick.
I don't know how I'm gonna take it over because you're the expert. Just, I just think that the work that Victor has done together with Oscar in the Oakview neighborhood, it's like Michelle said, I live in Huntington Beach. And I can tell you that, and I live in the cheap seats. I'm not in the Tony part of Huntington Beach, but and Victor's neighborhood is just up the street from me. You would never know it exists
Yep.
because it's kind of hidden. Nobody really talks about minority neighborhoods here. And I don't like to use the word minority. People of color neighborhoods. But because of the work that Oscar and Victor have done, the Oakview neighborhood is a force to reckon with now. All the candidates want to go to Oakview. All the candidates want to have Oscar and Victor take them around and they wouldn't have done that prior to 2016.
Yes.
Ever.
Thank you, Karen. And really quick, that again, it's about narratives and people. Politicians just want that exposure, right? But we live in those neighborhoods. We have connections in those neighborhoods, and what we've always been careful of is, like, them not hijacking, not tokenizing our community, right? Because if they're coming to us, guess what they're gonna have to do? They're gonna have to listen to the issues that we want, right? That we want changed. So that's one of the biggest things. Is some folks are like hesitant, but at the end of the day, like, they know where we stand on that, right? Because that's what politicians do. They just want that, that brown body, let me take a picture, oh, poor little kid, let me, they want that. Most folks do. They don't do that here. What we do as a community group is, like, invite folks in, understand, get to know the people, and hear their issues out. But yeah, thank you, Karen. I found my slides, by the way. Is an updated one. So here you'll be once you download your PDA Mobile Connect application, once the PDA Mobile Connect is downloaded, you will be prompted to the screen. Your login email will be provided by, don't forget, don't worry about that. That's ROC staff or your campaign, and your password will be community. So once your mobile project is complete, you're gonna prompted to this login screen, enter your email that the volunteers registered with. Another super duper imperative tool for folks is I've used Mobilize America. I think, Karen, you also have Mobilize, right? Y'all
Thank
have to be
you.
collecting
Yes.
y'all have to be collecting data, when people register and sign up, and why it's really important for all of you to be locking your dates from July or the month after, hopefully July, right? Because everything's going to change. Even if you have them locked, they're probably going to change, but you already have those dates. It could be, the just having those events there. You want to have them and import them into the software system, Mobilize, right? Or uh, Eventbrite or whatever you use. But I am going to say this, there are free trials sometimes for, 5 events or 50 volunteers or 5 days. There are trials where you could, try out these software programs, because it's so easy for folks to just register. You grab their basic information and you have access to all of these folks, or you could enter them yourself and just email blast, text blast, free. That's like work of a bunch of staffers. But if you have those organizing tools, your job is going to be a lot easier, right? If you could have a campaign manager. Your assignments. So here, these are, when you prompt folks to the screen, you'll see their assignment list. Once you're logged into your PD account, all assignments will have been assigned to you, will appear on your mobile device. As you can see in this picture, you will see the name of the organization, city, turf, number, etc. So this is how I called it. ROC is the organization that I work for. So it's a test, and this is our turf cut number 1. We have in this assignment 607 voters, 311 households, and the due date. Always make sure to let your field director know that the due date is always a day or any day after the election, right? Unless your field director turns this feature on, please do not click on the go, simply because on the go will just generate voters that are within your surrounding area or where they're at, because PDI does pick up on your location, right? So this is a feature similar to what the Bernie Sanders campaign had, which was Friends of Bernie, I think.
Get out the damn vote. That was their software.
Yeah. And they press the button where you can download the Burn app, and it will populate registered voters within your area. You can do that, by the way. Yes, it's an awesome feature, but it has its big flaws, because you don't know who you're talking to, and they may not even they may already be living in a district where it's a high propensity, high turnout precinct, where it's like you don't want to be wasting your time going to a district or a precinct that has a high turnout. You want to make sure you go identify turnouts of based on factual data from the registrars on precincts that historically don't turn out. And just because one huge mistake that almost all field directors do is they prioritize precincts by density. I would say this, biggest mistake, not all the time, but biggest mistake, right? Just because you have a large concentration, it may be, let's say my neighborhood, it's one of the largest precincts in Huntington Beach. But historically, it has not turned out, right? For midterm elections, for midterms, they have not turned out. You want to make sure that you have a real, your community better than anybody else, by the way. No political science individual or data expert's going to be, they're going to tell you something you already know, right? Unless you have those deep conversations, you're not going to be persuading or changing people's minds to go out and vote, right? So yeah, just one thing, just because it's like really dense doesn't mean that it's going to translate to high turnout. If you're just going to be canvassing, right? Just canvassing. Here's why you should vote XYZ, vote on November 7th. You can change that by having deep conversations. You will change it little by little, because now you're having two-way communication with them. So then we have, going back to the PDI presentation, street view, people view, map view, street view. Never go on street view, because y'all know, if y'all have ever canvassed, all the streets are not in alphabetical order. They're not going to be A, B, C street. No, so don't go to a street view unless you want to, split up streets with your partner. Then you could use street view. But I just advise folks, no, don't go to street view. People view, we are knocking on doors, thus we don't know who these folks are, so do not use people view. And it has everybody in alphabetical order on people view, right? Map view. The map view gives you an overview of your canvassing assignment. Before you start canvassing, strategize the best possible walking route, right? Because we don't want to start off, you know, here and then go over here and bounce around. So just try and park somewhere in the center, right? So if you see like, you know, two sides of the street and there's a lot of green, and let's say base is right here, right? This is your starting point. Can you all see my cursor? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I always tell this to canvassers, you know, so if this is your area, you want to end here, you're only going to be canvassing for an hour, then start there. You can either drop them off, their car could be parked here, your field director, somebody could just drop them off here, and they work themselves up, time's up, done, cool. Now they just walk over here. Does that make sense?
So Victor, tell people what the advantage is to using a mobile app to canvas versus folders with papers.
So yeah, having a walk list is very time consuming, super duper time consuming for the field director and for canvassers themselves. The beautiful thing about the mobile project is the same thing. Everything's done electronically, and the data is automatically synced right away with the campaign just by a click of a button. Oh shoot. In survey, here's your survey.
So you as the field director, you as campaign volunteers don't have to manually enter the day's canvassing into your database. It's already done for you on the mobile app.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes,
Okay, so is that just a California thing? Because
that's a California.
I'm just
thing,
trying
but in
to
other
figure.
states, it's called minivan.
okay, so it's van.
Van, yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
It's van.
okay.
So it's a similar, it's actually a little bit user friendly. The difference between van and PDI is that PDI directly gets their data immediately from the county registrars. Van is a whole nationwide system that everybody uses, and especially for GeoTV here in California. If y'all are not familiar with these terms, now you will know. GeoTV stands for Get Out the Vote. In some states, Get Out the Vote is still traditional Get Out the Vote, which is last weekend before the Super Tuesday, right? So that's your traditional GeoTV. In California, our now standard GeoTV starts a month before the election because ballots drop, right? The ballots drop. I actually have the important dates here, the list. And it's very important for you all too to please take notes, is if you're going to go out canvassing, get the folks involved, give them a list, go to the county registrars of office, and they'll have a list of like frequently asked questions, important dates, when you can register, when's the cutoff date to register before the ballot drops, or etc. So I have that embedded in our script as well, and I have some copies or sign up volunteer QR codes. So those are things that you may want to tell your field director, right? Like if folks want to volunteer, you could have a QR code here. You could have a QR code at the bottom that says important dates, right? Or polling locations, volunteer, whatever. I find it really easy. My canvassers find it really easy because they're walking and they're like, okay, cool. You want this information? Scan, boom. If you want to give paper flyers of that information, you can do it, right? But it's gonna get really messy, right? They're gonna come back and y'all know they'll give you the clipboards, and it's just gonna be a lot more work for your director or for yourselves. If you're doing it yourselves, it's gonna be a lot more work. But the difference is PDI and van. PDI, if I submit my ballot and I create a universe that says I want to target all of my high propensity voters that have not voted yet, and PDI within like less than 24 hours, they update their system and they refresh. So if I am on your list today, and then tomorrow, that same day today, I'm sorry, if I submit my ballot today, tomorrow I won't pop up because the registrar already processed my ballot and they'll take me off the universe. So all these lists during GeoTV, this universe will shrink. It'll shrink. And it's an amazing tool because compared to van, it takes about 2 or 3 days. And for GeoTV, you cannot afford that, right? So here in California, they're pivoting from van to PDI because it's super fast. But they do have that. Getting started. So this is this is a setup. You know, map view. We target this home here, four homes, 7 people, and sometimes you'll come across even with minivan. You'll have an apartment complex with no apartment number, right? So here you will tell your canvassers to just, you know, either code it not home, but sometimes you may be lucky, and if you're knocking at door number 3, and there's door number 3 is Javier, Janice, and Brianna, and somebody opens the door, and it may be the person that's on this same address without an apartment number. Say, let's say this is Jane Doe. Jane Doe lives in this one that doesn't have an apartment number, right? They may be here, right? So you can survey them. For most of the time, it's really hard. I hope I made sense. You know, sometimes they don't have an apartment number, but they may live in the same household as the house that you're canvassing. But for the most part, I will tell people to just code it not home. So here you'll be posted, prompted to this screen here. We have, what stands out the most here is Javier and Brianna. They have no vote history. The VTS 0, VTS 0, right? And here we have a pretty good, you know, looks like this person since they turned 18, they've been voting in every single election here because they voted 4 times out of the last 5 at the age of 21. So here's your standard script. We'll go to the next question. So this one was just like more of, this is this isn't deep canvassing. This is more of a community input. This is a survey or community input. You know, if you want to identify the issues that are important to the community, we had a list of 10 issues, which was housing and security, clean streets, immigration, lack of economic opportunity, mental health, youth services, and these are the top 3. Then you'll be prompted into a next survey question, which is out of a scale of 1 through 5. 5 meaning, you know, very important, and 1 meaning not important at all, etc. That's how I collected my data, right? A ranking system on these issues. And then one of the last questions would be like, would you like to volunteer or stay connected and participate in these bi-monthly meetings? Yes, no, or maybe. I did add the maybe afterwards, but for now, at one point I just didn't even have that option because everything changes. Here you have disposition. You could enter their information if they choose to give you their phone number or cell phone. These are all voter files. So we have we have as much information as they gave when they signed up to register to vote, and you could update this information. So here are codes for Javier. If he's not home, you can press not home, move, deceased, gated, refused, language barrier, etc. You know, all those are saved into the system. Canvassing in pairs. Canvassing, some folks like the canvassing with a friend, or it may be another canvasser's first time out on the field. Whatever the reason it may be, we want you all to feel comfortable and have the best possible canvassing experience with your campaign. So PDI does have 2 features. If you press this 3 little dots on the top, hopefully you can see my cursor. It'll split it up, odds and evens, and you could, you know, you'll tell your canvassers to select, you know, which apartment complexes they want to knock on, whether it be the odds or evens. I know this won't make sense to folks that don't live in California, but the same thing could be done, you know, the opposite, you know, odds or evens, and they give you a list of options so you can contact, you know, the campaign manager, etc. It's a small little presentation if we want to, you know, walk through our canvassers and explain to them what the application is all about. Walking in pairs, do's and don'ts on canvassing, different styles of canvassing. Yeah, and PDI just pulls all this information out, and it's amazing depending on what you want to target. Anybody here running for city council? Michelle, anybody else?
I'm in La Habra.
Oh, La Habra?
Mhm.
Auburn is very democratic. Low turnout though. That's why they have
Yeah.
most Republicans. So you got a
But
good.
our council is full Republican pretty much.
Yeah, no. I know that. I have a lot of people that I've worked with other organizations in Latino neighborhoods over there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the benefit I do have though is that I know a lot of people in our city, and I know all their parents and grandparents. And, you know, I grew up with a lot of these people, so it's funny when, like I explained yesterday, when we tried to get everybody vaccinated, I just started calling kids and grandkids, and everybody started calling their aunts, and we've got like 1,000 people done in like a week or two. It was awesome. So we can do the same thing, you know, and I wasn't even thinking in this direction.
Anybody have any questions for me or anything?
Hi, Victor. I did have a question. I'm running for school board in the city of Anaheim, and I know since ballots are dropping in October, what would be your suggestion in starting field before open mail is out?
Oh, I would honestly August,
August, okay.
but you, like I said, lock those dates. I
Mhm.
would hope that your launch is in August to build the capacity. And when you lock all your dates, if you have mobilized, you're going to be locking all your dates like for Saturdays and Sundays walks, you know, official campaign launches, because you could be training folks to be like, we call this training the trainer. So, or training the super volunteer, right? That want to host their own launches in other respective parts of town. So if you're going to be canvassing Friday after, you know, from 4 to 6, whatever schedule you decide to do, or Saturday and Sunday, if they can't canvas for you, you know, those weekends in August, then September, October, all the way up to November, you'll have all of those events, right? They can't say no to all of them.
Mhm.
You know, as much as you want them there every time, just having, it's really hard to, you know, get folks out there to train and go out there and knock for you. But the sooner, the better you have those events locked and mobilized, and they have them there. So that you can start building capacity, start going to your local Democratic clubs once you already have, because you look like you're very well organized if you have all of your locked dates, right? You wanna make that presentation like you know what you are doing, because you do know what you're doing, right? Which is, you know, running your field and having those calendar dates out there. So that's that was my strategy, and it worked very well with Oscar, even though he came, you know, one person short, but we got Natalie and Dan out there. And people will sign up if they start seeing that you're, you know, what I highly recommend you to brand. Branding is super important, you know, having your signs, your first canvas launch, you know, I made ours with a big, you know, Mexican folklore group, you know, Los
Mhm.
Chinelos.
Oh, yeah.
We had the Chino, we had banda,
Oh,
we had
wow. Yes.
dancers, we had over 100 people for a city council campaign in Huntington Beach. We had over 100 people, and we had like 40 canvassers that day.
Okay.
You know, so optics and branding, made some videos, make sure that you have your team. Anytime that you are going to be present for your campaign, or if you're attending any grand opening ceremonies or whatever, yeah, have your assistant, have somebody there that's going to be, you know, taking pictures, because content is super duper important, right? We're all on social media. We know who our opposition is. You know what they're doing. And guess what? It's usually the same 4 or 5 people that are there in every single picture. But guess what? You all have is people, you know, but people are not going to see what you are seeing or what you have unless you put yourself out there. So I highly recommend you all to do that. Is you know, optics in politics, it's all about optics.
Oh, sorry, my camera froze. I
Oh,
missed like
you're good.
half of your
Oh, your
speech.
camera froze? So
Yes, I'm sorry. I was like gone for like 2 minutes.
no. I was saying,
Okay.
like, you know what, if we don't have the money compared to other folks, and
Mhm.
you know, in politics, it's all about optics.
Mhm.
It's all about optics. Knowing what you're doing, having your calendar dates, you know, your lock dates, and promoting,
Okay.
going to Democratic clubs, and you know, whenever you do make a presentation, have somebody drop in the link. Hey, by the way, you know, our campaign kickoff is this day. We have a meet and greet. We have invite your local school board members, trustees, invite your city council, invite your congressman, invite your senator. Be creative with some of your events, right?
Okay.
but have those locked already. Imagine that somebody goes to your mobilized link and they see, damn, Jessica, you already have all of your dates locked for your Canvas launches. You already have all these meet and greets. You're giving them a variety. People love, like, they love dates. They love all of that. So, yeah.
Okay, that was very helpful. Thank you. This is very helpful. I was taking notes throughout the time. So thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Anybody else have any questions?
Victor, muchas gracias. So great of you to take the time on a Sunday morning to help the ladies because we need help.
So informative. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I just feel like I ranted, especially because I just had my coffee. I was like,
No, it was good.
lucky I
good.
didn't have my energy drink. But yeah, y'all, like, seriously, I wish you all the best in your races. And I know that, you know what, some races we may be, you know, looking, climbing a hill, you know, because it's an uphill battle, and
Yeah.
everything's an uphill battle. Even if you are in a +3, +10, +20% registration over your Republican, you know, counterparts or Democratic counterparts, because there are, you know, some folks that we do want out of office that are not keeping their word, and we want them out. How are we going to do that? You know, these deep conversations, persuading them, it takes time, you know, and it is possible as long as you have your strategy, your layout. If y'all are ever worked in the nonprofit sector, y'all know that you have to have your game plan, your field budget. I'm sorry, your budget and your strategize. Your, oh my God, what do they call that? Could somebody just help me in there? It's like it's like your yearly plan, right?
Yeah. You're just building your what's it
They
called?
have everything planned what they're going to do.
Now I'm stuck.
Campaign plan.
Game plan, yeah.
Game plan, like, this is the same thing, you know, like, we have to have everything locked and know, you know, if you don't know, like, right now is the perfect time to ask, you know, well, if I want to get this in order to do this, how do I get there? Like, work backwards. Like, we already know our date is November 7th. How are we going to get there? Well, by canvassing, by raising money, by getting endorsements, by, you know, meeting with the community. Work backwards. And that's what I mean by work backwards is November 7th. So how do we get there? Okay, canvas, meet and greets, fundraisers, electeds, all that, and just choose dates and fill them up. Biggest thing, you know, those historical events on issues that you are campaigning for, if it's your platform, look at that. You know, if there's a, you know, mental health awareness month, if you're going to be fighting or lobbying for Congress or state senate for more funds for that, like, you all are experts of the issues that you are running for because you're passionate about them. So just lock those dates. Lock those dates. I always tell people, lock those dates. Thank you, Karen, so much. And I hope
Thank
I
you,
read too
thank
much.
you, thank you.
So
Have a
helpful.
great Sunday. Hey to your mom. You're on mute.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Good luck.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you, Victor.